Hello.
Welcome
to
back.
Day 2.
Yeah, to day 2 of the Let's Not Sugarcoat It book and speaker series. We want to thank each and every one of you for coming this morning and spending the day with us and supporting our mission so we can move, touch, and inspire people through our stories. But before we get started, we would like to invite Shannon Roberts onto stage so she can do a land acknowledgement for us.
Welcome, Shannon.
Good morning, everyone. A territorial acknowledgement is a way that people create awareness of Indigenous presence and recognize land rights in everyday life. So let us acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the unceded and traditional territory of the Okanagan Nation, Syilx-speaking people. And I just wanted to add a little bit of information for those of you not from the area, or maybe that don't have this information, that the Okanagan Nation Alliance was formed in 1981 as the inaugural First Nations government of the Okanagan, which includes 8 member communities. So that's the Okanagan Indian Band up in Vernon, the Upper Nicola Band, West Bank First Nation, which many of you know well, Penticton Indian Band, Osoyoos Indian Band, Lower and Upper Similkameen Indian Bands. And prior to there being an international border with the U.S., part of the Okanagan Nation is also the Colville Confederated Tribes.
Wow, thank you. Thanks so much. It's so great to get all that extra information, too, so thank you very much. We also wanted to thank all of you for being here, all of our authors and speakers for being here, anyone tuning in from home. We're here to talk about the power of storytelling, community, and connection, and Bella's going to dive a little bit more into that. I just wanted to go over some housekeeping things of what to expect. So we are filming, and it is live, so if you have to exit, we'd ask that you stay sitting for the whole 10 minutes that each speaker is up here on stage. And then Bella and I will be coming back on stage, and that's a great time if you need to sneak out for a bio break or anything to just sneak out then. And then you can come in either before the next speaker or after they're finished, just so we don't interrupt their flow and their talk and so on. So that would be great. And then we do have a camera in the middle. If you could just use the sides to go to the washroom, etc. There's a washroom out there. We will be having about an hour and 10-minute lunch break from around 12:20 until 1:30. And we are so excited for all of you that you are here joining us. And we're really grateful to all of our speakers who are also authors in our book for pouring their hearts out, for getting their stories on paper. We know that a lot of these stories were things you hadn't spoken about before, that you were maybe nervous to bring to light. And we just feel so honored that you put your trust in us and that we have worked so hard on this together.
And we also want to acknowledge all of our sponsors who have helped us get to where we are today. It's been definitely a journey. It's been a year in the making, and we're so excited to be here. Why we started this project, I think we know why. Because our stories can change lives. One story can touch one person, and that story could really affect their perspective. And saving lives. Like the stories we heard last night were so empowering and moving. I heard from people that each story they could resonate with. There was nuggets in there. They're like, wow, yes, I've been there. Wow, I'm so impressed that this person went through this adversity and this is where they are today. So yes, we're so grateful to be able to stand here and share these stories with you, because we can choose to stand tall every day, even at times of adversity. We all have stories to tell. We all have broken parts, and we all need sometimes someone to come and say, hey, I'm broken too, and we're in this together. We are not defined by our past. We have the power to choose who we are today and who we will be tomorrow. So without further delays, we would like to welcome Aaron back, Aaron Volpati, back to the stage so he can come and share his story with us. So I'll give you a little bit of a bio again. Aaron is a former NHL player and a pioneer in visualization and performance mindset. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree because, you know,
that's her Ponglish coming out
Polish.
now.
I'm like, I'm not going to even try. In human biology from Brown's University. His hockey career, post-secondary studies, and personal experiences led Aaron to develop his unique practice. He is dedicated to teaching others how to find their true grit through visualization. Aaron has a truly inspiring story of overcoming a tremendous amount of adversity. So welcome, Aaron.
Welcome.
Yeah, sure, please. Sorry.
Good morning, everyone. Well, this is, I guess, more for the new listeners here, as I know a lot of you were here yesterday as well. But before I get started, I want to share a little story with you. So my oldest son, he's almost 9, and he's all into YouTube, right? So all you parents out there can maybe relate, where we're trying to manage screen time and the amount he's getting and the content he's consuming, right? Thankfully, he's more interested in fishing and hunting, rock and roll, and hockey videos. And he was scrolling the other day, and one of my fight videos pops up, and we'll get there. And it reminded me of this time when he was a lot younger. He was about 3 years old, you know, yay high, and he ran up to me one day, and he goes, "Datton," that's what he calls me, "can I see some of your NHL videos?" And he had just started building his passion for hockey, and he started to get that I played and thought it was cool and all this good stuff, right? So I thought, yeah, sure, buddy. So I pull up YouTube, and let's just say that you got to scroll for a while before you find something appropriate to show your 3-year-old. Because I didn't get paid to score goals. Let's just say that there was a lot of that, right? So I showed him anyway, and well, now I'm on my second wife. So I'm kidding. Well, kind of. But the reason I share this with you is because he now, or I should say still firmly believes that he will become an NHL hockey player, be a drummer in the next famous rock band, and have his own fishing show and YouTube channel, all at the same time, right? And why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he believe he can become all of these things? Because a child's world is limitless, right? We're all born into this world, for the most part, with an innate ability to dream and to believe that we can become anything that we want. And that's a very, very beautiful thing. Unfortunately, that belief system becomes threatened by many different things. Age and the eventual growth and protection of those limiting beliefs as they spread their venomous roots. Injury, trauma, mental health challenges, adversity. I love that word, adversity. Right? Who here in this room has experienced adversity? Yeah, we all have, right? I was really thrust into this world of adversity when I was 19. And after an unfortunate gas and fire stunt went horribly wrong, I was lit on fire. And it was like a scene out of a horror movie. Blackout pain, shock, rocks embedded in raw flesh, blood, dirt, the stench. And the last thing I remember from that night was running into the emergency room. So where this accident had happened, we had no service. We were out in the middle of the bush, middle of nowhere. So we couldn't call 911. Now, picture this for a moment. The emergency room in the middle of the night. right? I imagine you probably had your token screaming baby. Maybe someone had chest pains. A guy picked a fight with the wrong dude at the bar and he needed to get cleaned up, whatever it looked like. And in I run. I'm ass naked. Nothing was left of my clothes. Screaming, dirty. I'm bleeding profusely from jumping out of the moving car on the way to the emergency room because the anticipation just took over me and I dove out, more skin sloughing off on the pavement. And I can't imagine what everyone thought in that moment, right? Oh, sir, just take a number, grab a seat, and we'll be with you as soon as we can. I assure you that's not what happened. And that's the last thing I remember was the look of horror on the nurse's face. I didn't even realize I had been airlifted to Vancouver General Hospital when I woke up there the next day. And the first few days in that burn unit were pretty foggy. I don't remember too much. I was in a morphine-induced sleep, caught somewhere between actual rest and the slightly masked feeling of dull saws carving into my flesh. But my first real concrete memory came the morning of day 3. And I had just come out of my first debridement procedure. I don't know if anyone knows what debridement is, but for the sake of time and everyone's stomachs, I'll save you the description of what that entails. But it's torture. And they basically skin you alive. And I had to get this procedure done every 3 days. And so this first one, I come out of the anesthetic, thankfully, and the doctor walks in to my room. And he's going to relay my prognosis now, because up until this point, we didn't know how burnt I was and how bad things were. My parents didn't even know, was I even going to make it at this point? So we knew it was bad. Again, I was in Vancouver. There were only 10 beds at the time, so the 10 worst burns in the province. And so the doctor walks in, and the first thing he does is look at my mom and dad, because they're a wreck, and says, "It's okay. Your son is not going to die. He's a very lucky young man. This could have been much worse. The bad news is he's done significant damage to his torso, legs, right arm, and hand. He's 40% second, third degree burns. The good news is it doesn't look like his face is going to be permanently scarred, and I don't think we're going to have to skin graft over his joints, which is a very good thing. And he will make a full recovery, but he's going to be in here for a while, and it's going to be a long road." I think while my parents took some solace in that, all I could think about in that moment was, shit, I have training camp with the Vernon Vipers, the junior team I was playing for at the time, in 3.5 months. And I was chasing an NCAA scholarship. That was my NHL. So I made that mistake that so many of us make at a pretty young age, and those limiting beliefs started to take hold of me. Because I played the lowest level of minor hockey in Revelstoke, where I grew up. I got cut from select teams. I was never going to get drafted or have a chance to play major junior hockey, right? So I listened to those limiting beliefs and thought, maybe that's not for me. I didn't want to be naive, and I'm not that good, right? And yeah, it really it was an interesting time, because I asked the doctor, what does this look like? I got to be on the ice. I'm going into my last year of junior hockey eligibility now. So my last crack at the can to go get this scholarship. Now, to paint the picture for you, here I am, totally wrapped head to toe like a mummy. I have little eye slits, little oxygen piece in my nose. My mouth is slightly exposed. And I asked him that question. I got to be on the ice in 3.5 months. And I'll never, ever forget the look on his face until the day I die. And he really just froze and looked at me like I was fucking crazy. And maybe I was. But he eventually laid that gavel down when I thought, oh shit, this is over. And continued and said, listen, these recoveries take years, not months. Like, you're lucky to be alive. We'll get you in a pair of skates in a non-competitive environment years down the road when your recovery's complete. And so that was it. In that moment, I kissed that dream goodbye. Again, made that mistake. Now, obviously, something changed, right? And that moment came 2 weeks into my stay, and it was a simple phone call from my coach in Vernon. And he connected me with Brown University because they had been talking, and they were interested in a player who, in their words, could put the fear of God in the defensemen of the Ivy League. Well, I was pretty good at that. So my parents took down this number, and they put the phone, remember, I'm still bedridden, so they stick the phone between my ear and my shoulder, and we have this conversation with one of the coaches from Brown. And it was left pretty open-ended. Again, they showed interest, but really they just said, we're sorry to hear what happened, and we wish you the best in recovery. And that was it. And so my parents hang up the phone, and I remember getting very emotional with them in that moment because I had worked my entire life to just talk to one of these guys. And I had finally done it. And look where I was. Look what I had done to myself. And so I sat with that. And I naturally started asking questions in my head. So they're telling me I can't play hockey in a few months. Okay, why? Why does it have to be over? And believe me, there was a very good long list of reasons why, right? Infection risk was very high. The skin grafts were going to be too limiting, too painful, would take years to fully heal and mature. I'd have to wear a full bodysuit for 2 years. I can no longer sweat now from those third-degree areas. And the list just went on and on and on. And in my, thankfully, naive young head, I thought, basically, what I'm hearing is you're telling me it's going to hurt too much. And the pain is going to be too much. Like, it can't be worse than what I've just been through these last couple weeks. Again, that was slightly naive thinking. But everything shifted in that moment, and I made a choice and a promise to myself that I was going to come back and play hockey, and I was going to go to Brown, or I would die trying. And I literally mean I was willing to die before giving up in that moment. Because when I had reclaimed that dream that I let someone take from me, I was willing to protect it with my life. And I think in hindsight, even looking back, the realization I had was, you know, the pain of giving up and not seeing what I was truly capable of would have been far greater than any physical pain I would endure. And believe me, I endured hell for especially that next year. So people often ask me, how did you discover visualization? Well, this is how. I was bedridden in a burn unit. I could not move. And once I had made this choice and made this promise to myself, this was all I had. It was just me, the pain, and my thoughts every single day. And I set out on a quest for human potential and possibility. And I went to work on rebuilding that belief system. And I'll tell you, it truly ignited a superpower inside me. It really did. A superpower that we all have inside us. And I was out of that hospital in 6 weeks. I played hockey that fall, committed to Brown, and I was in the NHL 5 years later. Now, how's this for manifestation? So I signed with the Vancouver Canucks. Of all the teams, I was a free agent, could have signed, in New York or Nashville, right? But I signed in Vancouver, the team that I grew up cheering for as a kid, right? I used to watch all their games. And after I signed, I moved to Vancouver in the summer to train with the team. And I rented a place just a couple blocks from Vancouver General. And I would go there, a couple times a week. I'd go up to the burn unit, talk to some of the burn survivors, and I'd just walk in and out of the doors, the same doors that I got wheelchaired out, 5 years prior to that, when I was told that I would never play hockey again. I never had an inkling of a thought of pro hockey, ever, until, years later at Brown. And I remember when I called my parents to tell them that I had signed, they didn't even believe me. My dad actually told me to fuck off, get real. It came out of nowhere. So again, as I walked through those doors of the hospital, it was like this full circle moment, and I just couldn't help but think, had I been manifesting this my whole life and I didn't even realize it, right? So I went on to have a 5.5-year career in the NHL. Unfortunately, that was cut short due to a career-ending neck injury. I've had a lot of injuries and surgeries in my life so far. But I'll tell you that life after hockey hit me even harder. I was dealing with the chronic pain, stiffness of the spinal fusion in my neck. That loss of identity was very real. I was going through a divorce. My dad was sick. I eventually worked a job that just served no purpose or passion in my soul, and I was completely lost. And I hit rock bottom. And it was in this rock bottom moment that I realized I needed to get help, and I needed to talk to someone. And this was not an easy thing for me to do, by the way. Especially as a man in hockey, we weren't taught to be vulnerable and show weakness. The complete opposite of that, really. Right? But I'm so glad that I did, because it was in these sessions with this counselor that we came to two very important realizations. Number one was that there are different pillars to mental health, right? There's a physical component, and I was really good at overcoming physical adversity. I could push through that pain. Through my burn injury, I fought in the best hockey league in the world. Fought some of the biggest, baddest dudes on the planet, right? And if you put a wall in front of me, and there's something I want on the other side of that wall, I will break through that fucking thing to get what I want. Make no mistake. But there are also emotional and spiritual components to mental health. And in that sense, inside, I was just a young, immature little boy. And I didn't know how to deal with that type of adversity after hockey. I couldn't physically fight that. And the second realization we had was I had shared some of these profound experiences I had had with visualization and the power of the human spirit. And we agreed that maybe it was time to write a new movie for what my life could look like. Because that was the practice that I had practiced then and that I teach in my business now, called cinematic mind mapping, where I literally, and my clients, I get them to literally think of their life as a movie. And you get to be the director of that movie, because there's no limitations up here, right? And it's a very powerful, powerful practice. And so we realized that this movie was no longer Aaron Volpatti, the hockey player, because that was over. That we all knew. But as Aaron Volpatti standing in front of you here today, right? And rebuilding that fractured belief system and thinking that maybe there was something even bigger and better out there, because I didn't have that belief initially after hockey. And as soon as I went back to that practice again, my life changed dramatically. And that's why I'm so passionate about doing what I do now and talking to all of you, because visualization has not only got me out of that burn unit to come back and play hockey when I was told it wasn't possible, got me to Brown and later the NHL. Most importantly, it also saved my life in a very dark time. And what's interesting is that adversity has always been a gift. So every piece of greatness or success I've achieved in my professional life and in my personal life has always been preceded by very extreme adversity. And I know now that that's no accident, right? Because we don't build our belief system when life is easy. We build it through the shit when things are hard. And adversity can be our greatest gift. And doors are going to present themselves throughout all of our lives, right? The easy ones, where we idle, we don't make major changes, we seek the comfortable, we chalk adversity up to bad luck, right? Those doors are already open. It's easy just to walk through. And there's nice sandy beaches through that door. And it's nice and comfortable. But the doors that dreams lie behind, those fuckers are bolted shut. Right? You got to kick those down. And when you walk through there, everything that you are afraid of lives through that door. And there's more pain, more sacrifice, more adversity on the horizon. But beyond that, the ending is something more beautiful than we could ever imagine. And what if we had different iterations or movies of what our life could look like? They're already written for us, right? And it was up to us which dream and which vision and which doors we decided to walk through or break through. So go ahead, honor and ignite that inner child again. It's never too late to start dreaming again. And kick open the damn door. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
You know, it's always so amazing to hear you speak, because I think I've heard you speak maybe 4 or 5 times, and every time I get something different, and every time I feel just as inspired. So thank you.
Thank
yeah.
Thank you. I do have a question. So
I have many questions.
You know, it's like, so now you have this coaching business, and we're talking about dreams, because dreams come. It's like you reach your dream, and then what's next? So what's next? What is your big dream now?
Yeah, good question. A lot of my movie is surrounded, like in my personal life, around family. That was a big piece of how I grew up and what I want to achieve, and I'm getting closer to that. We, just bought some land, and we have some chickens and kids run around, and that was part of my vision. Professionally, it's speaking, worldwide, internationally, which I've done a little bit of, but continuing that and just making an impact through my coaching business. So I'm, moving towards that slowly, surely, yeah.
So many things. Yeah. Okay, I have a question about when you talk about that moment, right, where you realized that you had to dig deep. This was what you were going to choose. You're going to in the hospital there. So do you think that part of that is innate? You know how there's some people who are like, I'm faced in this adverse situation, and I'm just going to not take no. I'm just going to bolt through the door. I'm going to do whatever it fucking takes, like you said, to get to the other side. What do you think, is that innate? Can we all learn it? Or is there a part of it that's like, that's who you are?
That's a really good question that I've been asked a few times. I think I had some level of predisposed grit from my dad, and the way that I was raised. You know, he was a boxer growing up, and the messaging was always, I don't care how good you are, just as long as you love it and you try your hardest. And so I think back to that moment and wonder, like, if I didn't have that somewhat baseline of maybe predisposed grit, like, would I have made that same choice? I don't really know. But really, like, at the end of the day, like, that door presented itself, and I could have done nothing. I could have just laid in bed and thought, well, you know, this is my reality. That'd be cool if it happens, but they're saying it can't. So, like, I know in my soul that I would have never made the NHL without getting burnt. It just wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, the universe is insane like that,
Right?
right? And you talked about vulnerability and how, you know, growing up in the hockey world, it was hard. You weren't taught that, right? So we talked a bit about your kids last year, or yesterday, last year, you know, at that one. I'm interested to know, because you have 2 boys, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of things are you doing, especially I know your little one's 1, but with your 9-year-old to sort of embody or teach him that it's okay to be vulnerable?
Yeah, really just expressing and opening up feelings, right? I understand that maybe you're feeling something. Do you want to unpack that? And usually he's like, no. But you're giving it that space, and hopefully, you know, he'll get to that point, and just giving him some of those tools. It's a fine balance for me at that age. This is a whole other topic, but just because he plays hockey, and it's fucking crazy. Like, it's so serious, and I'm like, these kids are 9. Shouldn't we just have fun? Like, so it's definitely a balance. And so I share some of the tools of, like, you know, visualize, you know, what you want and all these things. But it's more just, even if you take that for years down the road, at the end of the day, it's like, just have fun. But we have other things, like in our house, like, you can't say the word can't. I just said it, but
you know,
in that context, I think it's okay.
you caught yourself saying it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, so, and it's just like little things like that where he'll catch himself, and it's cool because he'll be getting ready for school. He's like, I can't get my shoe, and he'll be like, look at me like, I'm like, yeah, that's right. He's like, I'm having trouble. I'm like, there you go. So it's just like little things like that we try and help with. But the vulnerability piece, I think that's something that, you know, I'm giving him some tools, but it'll, as he gets older, I think play more of an impact, because he's just a 9-year-old crazy little boy at this point. So.
Right.
So I have a question, because, like, you know, we talk about grit and how we grew up. We come from a different generation, right? We were pushed by our parents, like, to do those things. With today's society and how we're parenting our kids today, everybody's, you know, participations and stuff like that. Like, do you think there is value in, like, pushing your kids instead of just, like, yes, you know, how you said, oh, this is serious, but if it wasn't serious for you, do you think it would have gotten you to where you are today if you weren't pushing yourself or being pushed by your coaches and your parents, right? Versus just, like, pat on the back.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, again, I think, like, how I grew up, we had a very tight family and tons of love, and I had the best childhood ever. But there was still that push to push past, like, fears and not be comfortable, where I think that's missing in today's society, where, I mean, this is a whole other tangent, but I think, like, we tend to, like, want to be our, like, not that you can't be your child's best friend, but it's like, well, I want my child to be, like, happy all the time. And it's like, that's actually not our job. It's like to make sure that you can be a functioning adult when you walk into the world, because now the kids don't often have a lot of the tools, because it's like, well, where's my pat on the back? Like, did I do a good job? Right? Again,
the
so
constant
validation.
I mean, validation. Or Bella and I have these kids who are playing volleyball. Okay, so instead of, I'm digressing, but instead of putting, you know, 12 kids on the volleyball team, they're like, oh, 40 kids showed up, so we left 40 kids on the team and we made 2.
Yeah.
What? You know?
Well, and it's just, as soon as they go through real adversity, it's just like crumble, because they've never had
to.
So if they don't have that experience, how do you expect them to to battle through that. And that's why, like, again, I think I had some predisposed level of grit there because I had pushed through like uncomfortable situations before that. So I think it's very important.
So many things.
Yeah.
And I hope that we all, like, maybe that's the difference. I know we have to move to the next speaker, but the difference is that, like you're saying, to hold space for somebody's feelings, even if it's our kid or somebody in our life, and know that that's your feeling, right?
Yeah.
Versus, oh, well, push past it. You don't need to feel that, or don't cry, or feel better. But if we're acknowledging that's your feeling, holding space for it, and saying, yeah, like, that sucks, but you will feel disappointment. You will feel rejection.
Yeah.
That's how we build grit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know for me, I have to like sometimes catch myself to project like my grit onto my like 9-year-old son.
Right.
Right. Where I'm like, he's not you. And so I have to remember that. And sometimes like they don't need anything other than just like a hug.
Yeah.
Right. And you just need to be there.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's been a learning experience for me and for all of us. Right.
Right.
But,
Okay, well, thank you so
Aaron.
much, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're going to get the page for just a 2-second interlude while Bella gets the page. Up next, we're going to have Missy, and Bella is going to read her bio. Missy is a local makeup artist. Bella's getting her bio, who has a store, if you're here with us today, just down the street. And welcome Bella to the stage.
Okay. So, Missy McIntosh is an internationally acclaimed makeup artist and fiery entrepreneur. Yes, she is. Missy founded the Build Canada's most award-winning clean beauty brand, Miss Mac Clean Cosmetics, in her small town of Canoe, BC. Yes, there's a place that's called Canoe. Yeah. She single-handedly grew out of her basement and into 2 storefronts during the global pandemic. Recently named most influential business leader to follow in Canada by Inside Success magazine and top 51 to watch keynote speakers in the Real Leaders magazine. Welcome, Missy, to the stage.
Thank you. Okay. So it's a 4-letter word that we never like to talk about. Fail. Feel it, acknowledge it, improve from it, and learn from it. Failure has shaped my life and my career. However, what if I told you that failure is something not to fear? Failure has been my biggest teacher and the driving force behind all of my accomplishments. Today, I'm going to share with you why failure was essential to my success and how you can redefine your relationship with failure to fuel your dream. So let me take you back. So I was actually born as a midlife oops. My mom was 39 and my dad was 43, and they were not expecting me. They had 2 older kids each, and growing up, I struggled to fit in. Finding a hard time being the black sheep of the family, not really welcome in all the things. I just kind of really struggled with it. However, during this struggle, I fell in love with something that fueled me: makeup. And at the age of 3, I was coloring blue eyeshadow and pink lips on my dolls, and the obsession started, but my mom never wore it. So it was a very taboo thing. I was always whopping down on all of the retail counters, smelling and feeling all the things. Well, fast forward to when I was 14, my mom joined Mary Kay. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have gone to heaven. Makeup was in my house, I could play. I grew up and was known as the Mary Kay girl in high school. And it was at one of these conferences with my mom that she took me that I remember sitting there and being like, gosh, I don't want to just work for a brand. I want to build a brand. But having big dreams, of course, comes with a lot of detours. So fast forward, I discovered I could go to school to become a makeup artist. I left Salmon Arm, grew up there, and moved to the big city and graduated honors at Blanche Macdonald. Not thinking that I could do makeup in a small town, I moved right to Calgary and was one of Makeup Forever's youngest managers, and also was headhunted by Shoppers Beauty Boutique to manage what was then the largest boutique in Western Canada and the first one to have Makeup Forever at the age of 21. Well, life had a different way of showing up, and we actually unfortunately suffered a silent miscarriage. And at that moment, I thought my dream of doing makeup full time and being an accomplished makeup artist, I had to end it to move home to do something I've always wanted. I always wanted to have a family where I felt that I belonged. So I left my career as a makeup artist, and I actually managed a travel agency in the small town of Salmon Arm. In fact, I was going to buy it. Fiery entrepreneur at heart. And makeup would follow me. It snowballed to the point that I was working full time, I was managing this travel agency, and I was doing makeup on the side every single weekend, and Evan was 2. And at this moment, I decided that in me, I needed to follow my dream. So I left my career as a makeup artist exactly 10 years ago today, believe it or not, to follow my dream to be a professional makeup artist with no income, no steady stream, but the fear of failing was actually outweighed by my determination to succeed. So at the height of my career, I worked in Kelowna. Yes, I still commuted back and forth from Salmon Arm at this point too. I was working for Opera Kelowna. My work was featured in Huffington Post, Cosmopolitan, Daily Mail, Wedlux magazine. I started educating and teaching and was known as like a really accomplished makeup artist. But something was still missing. I wanted to drive more impact. And by fate would have it, I was introduced to clean beauty and was hired to do a campaign for a new retailer in Winnipeg, kind of like a Sephora for green, clean Canadian beauty products. However, their products did not hold up to my standards. Used to Makeup Forever. I actually studied airbrushing at the Makeup Forever Academy at this point in time, and it just didn't work. However, they opened my eyes to how self-regulated this industry is, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So trying to find products that were safer for myself and for my clients that was like something you would find in Sephora didn't exist. So that's when I knew Miss Mac Clean Cosmetics needed to be born. So in my small town basement, I started Miss Mac and I grew it. However, there's a lot of failures along the way. It started with our very first one. I wanted to be the first brand in Canada to offer a biodegradable glitter at a retail level. And I was like, this is gonna be it. You don't know what you don't know until you do it. Well, it was a complete disaster. The packaging cracked on every single one of these lids of our Gaia gloss. Got to the point that my husband actually joked, people are gonna call you Miss Crack. Like, that's not funny because that could be a thing. But that's when failure, I leaned into that. I felt that disappointment. I acknowledged the mistake and I improved from it. To the point that I was so transparent, I handwritten little notes and put them into the box to ship out to the clients of how to avoid this. So at that time, I knew that Miss Mac was not going to be sustainable on glitter. We needed to get the rest of the products on the market. And at that time, I didn't believe in myself that I could build Miss Mac on my own. I actually had a partner. What? Oh, turning off. Sorry, okay. At that point, I actually didn't believe in myself that I could build Miss Mac on my own. So I actually had a partner. And I knew deep down in my heart that this was not working. And there was a lot of points in this particular relationship that I just felt in my gut that something wasn't quite right. And knowing that we needed to get all of these products onto the market, I had another fail. I overshot on packaging and was short $15,000 of actually getting the order in and on. At this point in time, my biggest supporter, who was my dad, he invested $50,000 into my business, and my investor, or my partner, invested $0. So when I went to them and asked desperately for some help so we could get Miss Mac up and running, what they told me floored me. I was told that I should have spent $50,000 on a vacation over building my dream. Now, I could have let that derail me. I could have let their lack of building my dream completely stop me in my tracks, but I didn't. I was enrolled at an amazing program called Shoe Shop Entrepreneur. It's like boot camp for entrepreneurship. They go through financials, marketing, planning, and all of that. And at the end of it, I pitched my little heart out on stage as if I was the true, complete 100% shareholder, and I won. Not only did it come with a cash prize, but it also gave me the confidence to know that I can single-handedly build Miss Mac. So my partnership with my partner ended in a very, very great way, in the best way it could have happened. And it was just me. In May of 2019, I launched 10 shades of foundation, 16 shades of art shadow, 7 lipsticks, and 1 blur setting powder, and Miss Mac was here. However, I wasn't still quite in my flow. I was doing what every other brand was doing. I was trying to get into wholesale. So it's where your brand is on other shelves, and it just wasn't quite working. And then in 2020, we all know what happened. The world shut down. And it was actually the best thing for me. I took this failure. Now that all my retailers are shut down, I went direct to consumer. And in that first week of lockdown, I had my very own makeup artistry lessons on Zoom. And we had people from Boston to Toronto to Newfoundland joining, which boosted my sales, which boosted all of the recognition for Miss Mac, and it gave me that drive. So when things opened back up, people started shopping in my basement. I'm like, this can't be a thing anymore. And I opened my very first store in April 2021 in Salmon Arm. 5 months later, I opened up Victoria, which came with its own other set of failures. From financial issues down to literal blockades of construction. During that same time, my biggest supporter went through a major health, and his health deteriorated, and he ended up passing away in January of 2023. And it was in that loss of my biggest supporter that I actually questioned whether or not to keep going with Miss Mac. And it was in my absolute darkest times, flipping on Facebook, and an opportunity came up, and this ad kept popping up, right? You know what social media does. And it was for an event in Victoria where Jamie Kern-Lima, the founder of IT Cosmetics, was going to be the keynote speaker, and this event was blocks from my store. And something inside me told me that I need to be there. So I ended up investing a little bit of my inheritance to be the sponsor of this event. And I was the only person to actually meet Jamie Kern-Lima. It changed my life. She listened to my story wholeheartedly. She brought me on stage. This is where you need to know your pitch for those entrepreneurs that are in this room. She told me to pitch my business into her phone, and she sent it to her contact that helped her get onto the Canadian Shopping Channel. And it was in that moment that I realized what showing up truly means. Whether you want to be there or not, whether you feel that you need to stop everything, showing up can change your life can change in a second. From there, I opened up Kelowna during the devastational fires, pitching on Dragon's Den with my son, launching for Canada's first ever toxic-free eye block for sports. My story continues. 2, shutting down Victoria amidst all of this. So my lesson to you is to feel the disappointment of failure, to acknowledge the lesson, to improve from it, and to learn as you grow. You need to fail into your flow. No one is going to build your business but you. And never be afraid to start small, to grow tall. Because you never know. You might just meet your idol like I did.
Thank you, Missy.
Thank you.
I'm just going to bring the podium back up, so give me 2 seconds. Bella's going to talk. I'll be right back.
Yes. I just love your story. And I wanted to talk to you or ask you, when failure presents itself, right? And we are in those deep, dark holes.
Yep.
How do you get yourself out?
Oh my goodness.
What is your process? Because it's hard. My husband always says, You can visit Pity City, but you can't stay there.
Yeah.
So how do you visit and how do you leave?
Honestly, it's the community. Everything happens for a reason, and there's little glimmers in your life that sometimes you don't really think about it until it happens. And I look back and I think of when I'm in the moment of like, I need to shut this down, a Miss Macker will come into the store and give me a hug and say, thank you for building this because Miss Mac has changed my life. My skin is better. I can use stuff that is clean. And it's like, okay, I can keep going today.
Yeah.
Right? Today I can keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things I love about your story, I love many things, is I love that you are just a representation that we can all, do big things. We can all achieve big things. I just love that you started this in your small town basement. Sorry, I have to cough. And that you built it up, and you're such an inspiration to little girls, to any little human out there who has a dream and might be sitting in their home somewhere in some small town thinking, but that can never be me. And I think that's so powerful about
Thank you.
So
I was that person.
You are that person.
I didn't think that I could do makeup in a small town, and I'm proving myself wrong every single day.
And you have done it. You've proved yourself wrong. I love that.
And you have a big announcement.
Yeah, we want to know, because we have a few minutes here. Tell us a bit about...
Okay.
We want to talk about how you're going to be on Dragon's Den.
Yes. We
Tell
have a
us
very
all
big
the
announcement.
things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a very, very, very big announcement. Those of you that were here yesterday, you know about it. For those of you that are new, so my son and I are airing on Dragon's Den. Woohoo! Woohoo! We're so excited. We are the first brand ever to merge both the cosmetics world and the sports world with a color cosmetics. So we have a brand new kit that's going to be launching on Dragon's Den. I cannot tell you if we got a deal or not, so you have to watch. That's going to be launching, and we have a really big audacious goal of selling 25,000 of these kits. But we cannot do it alone. So we have the most amazing game plan for the 1 week of pre-orders. The first 48 hours of someone purchasing a pre-order of a grit kit will get a copy on us of Let's Not Sugarcoat It podcast, which means your stories have the potential of hitting 10,000 people. So everyone is invited to the viewing party at the Delta, which will be happening as soon as we know. We'll get about a 3-week warning. They're going to be having one here for my Kelowna crew. We're going to be in Salmon Arm at Canoeligans, in Canoe, and we can't wait. So as soon as it goes out, we ask that you help us spread the word and share your stories, because it's going to be included in this.
It's going to be awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we're excited.
Wait, don't leave. I'm slowing it down. I was given some feedback yesterday from Bella's husband to take a second. So we're going to... I want to ask you about that moment that girl told you that, or that person, that business partner told you that, you should have spent it on a vacation, right? So obviously you said, okay, well, I pulled myself out of that. I knew what was on the other, I'm not going to take that. But how did you get to that point? Because I'm sure it took a minute, right?
It took a hot minute.
Yeah.
It took a hot minute because I wasn't alone. And this is where tears are going to happen. So for those of you that have Sassy J lipstick, it was actually designed by my best friend. My son calls her Uncle Jess, so that's how you're sorry. By my best friend, who's very on brand with her color today. I almost lost Miss Mac. I didn't believe in myself to the point that I almost gave up my entire dream when that was told to me that I actually really couldn't do this. And it was my best friend sitting with me and being like, no, you have built this. This is yours. We're going to ask these hard questions. And if it wasn't to have her in my back pocket and pushing me and being like, this is yours. This has been your dream from the beginning, Miss Mac would not be here today. So and this is the first time she was hearing my story live and being here today. So it kicked me. It kicked me in the ass, and I almost gave up my dream. I did. I really did. And it wasn't for this beautiful woman here that believed in me, that was like, no.
It is so important to have people that believe in you in times where you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people. Community.
Yeah. I'm so glad that she was there for you and that you didn't give up your dream.
Oh.
Thank you, Messi.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So, I feel so inspired that that's just what we're here to do, share stories and be vulnerable. And next up we have Dr. Brett. Okay. Dr. Brett. Those of you know, he is a wild man. Dr. Brett is a naturopathic physician who has been in private practice for the past 17 years. He lives in Kelowna with his 4 kids who have amazing names: Maximus, Theodore, Athena, and Atticus. His naturopathic practice is a holistic approach of mind, body, and spirit medicine. He believes your quality of life is a product of who you hang out with. That's so true. They say you're a product of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and your daily habits. He teaches the foundations of healthy diet, daily exercise, living mindfully, and getting restful sleep using various biohacks like IV therapies, regenerative injections, and supplements, and so on. He believes in leading by example for his family, his patients, and his community. He enjoys spending his spare time skiing with his family and summers on his motorcycle. Welcome, Dr. Brett.
Oh, I'm just going to set this one right here. Thank you. Okay. Oh, yeah, there we go. Thank you. This process has been quite amazing. I want to thank Bella and Alex for putting it on. A lot of tears are shed as you're putting this work together, from telling your story to hearing your story to writing your story to telling your story again. Someone told me to picture everybody naked in the crowd. It's a good looking crowd. Hey, Lee. Okay. Imagine this. You're lying in bed next to the person you love most, feeling the warmth and the comfort of their presence. And as you're lying there, they roll over and tell you that they don't love you anymore. At that moment, my heart shattered. My world was about to change. Has anyone here felt that emptiness or that profound loss, where you don't know what's going on or why? Today I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey of my, my heartbreak, and also my journey back from heartbreak. Let me start from the beginning. First time I laid eyes on my wife, I was in university, and I remember seeing her and thinking, that's my forever. Soon after, we fell in love pretty hard. I took her on a journey. I said, let's go to Vancouver. I'm going to do my naturopathic medicine. And very quickly after that, we started having children. My firstborn son. And then, soon after that, we had 3 more kids. Our family grew very fast. Those years were really great. Can anyone, that feeling you have when you're in love and you're excited for the future? But life isn't always a fairy tale. My responsibilities started to grow fast with a big family. Lots of bills to pay, lots of mouths to feed, a very busy practice, and I owned 2 different clinics which I opened and operated. Me and my wife were opposites. I was the entrepreneur, the butterfly, the social butterfly, the breadwinner, the provider. She was the stay-at-home mom, making sure the kids got to and from school and the meals were made and the house was clean. And you know what? I wouldn't have had it any other way. When we both were very good in our roles. We made a great team. The moment my wife uttered those fateful words, my life was changed. I was utterly broken. I couldn't understand why. I was blindsided. How many of you ever felt that deep sense of despair? I had devoted my life to my family, but I felt lost in the silence of our home. While I was pouring all my energy in my practice for a long time, after that, it didn't matter anymore. I could get to the clinic and do my work with my patients, but then all the business behind the medicine didn't matter. I just thought I was going to lose my kids. I come home and just want to hug them and hold them. So I was kind of silently unraveling as I was trying to keep everything together. And I was begging my wife to work on it. I was trying to get her to go to counseling, asking her what was wrong, but my pleas fell on deaf ears. My marriage was crumbling and I didn't know why. For a long time, I was holding on to something that I was already over. It was like playing tennis. I just remember I felt like I woke up every day, would hit the ball across the net, hoping that it would get returned. And that happened for years, and it never did get returned. So I know I'm not alone in this feeling. You know, you just feel dark and lost. You know, my whole purpose at that point was to raise this family, and now it was broken. Which I want to thank my dad, even though he's not here. Dad, if you can see me on TV. You know, without him, I don't know if I'd actually still be here. In separations, there's lots of ups and downs. I turn to gratitude as my guiding light to regain my strength. I'm going to take you all on a little bit of a journey, okay? The mind and the body are connected, right? Whatever happens in the mind has a response in the body. And through a mindfulness practice, you can actually help your body heal. And it works vice versa too. If within your body, how you hold your body and how you feed your body and how you treat your body will have a huge effect on your mind and your mood. So, when we breathe shallowly out of the top of our chest, quick and fast, that's a fight or flight response. That's a stress response. When you breathe deep into your belly, that's the parasympathetic, the rest, relax, repair, digest. So you can influence both. So I'm going to ask each of you to put your hand on your chest and a hand on your belly. And without judgment, take a nice big deep breath. What rises and what falls? Is it up in your chest or is it in your belly? So for this practice, I want you to just breathe into your belly. As I go on, just keep breathing. So with the mind, we have a tendency to go into the past. And in that past is the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Or we have a tendency to go, which can lead to depression, right? Or sometimes we go into the future, which is the what ifs. Often they're repetitive and they're negative. Not for everybody, but we can learn to change that. We can re-guide ourselves. So with practice and self-compassion, we can reframe our conscious brain to think more healthily. We can learn and grow from the past. We can plan and manifest for the future instead of it letting us get into those negative patterns. So the conscious thinking brain we can control, but it's where our belief systems are rooted in the subconscious brain. So how do we get into that subconscious brain? Because often our subconscious brain is filled full of lots of things from our past experiences, right? And often, again, they might be negative. You could be, have a frustrated or angry parent that says, "You're a bad girl." Or the bully in the schoolyard who says, "You're fat." When you get an emotion attached to something, an emotion that makes you feel, that's what opens the door and plants the seed back there. So, we need to open the door to get back there. And I like to think of my subconscious as a vineyard, mostly because I like drinking wine and I want to make grapes. So, to get back there, we can get back in there, we can pull those weeds, and we can actually plant a vineyard and new seeds. But you got to make it conscious, and you have to have an emotion attached with it. So as I started going towards gratitude as my way to start feeling my garden full of things and positive affirmations, what I used was the love of my children. And then I would have affirmations I would say, I'm grateful to be here today and get to share my story. I'm grateful for an able body and an able mind. I'm grateful to be a naturopathic doctor and I get to help people in my daily practice. And as I started to plant those seeds of gratitude back there, I started to realize and started to learn and started to believe again in myself. So, and many times fear can open that door, right? And in my case, it was profound sadness. And it was crazy how quickly those vines took over, or the weeds took over the vines. And, you know, the journey is still ongoing. Every time my kids leave my house to go to their mother's, it shatters me. And every week when they come back, it's like Christmas. So I'd hit rock bottom, but I used mindfulness as my guide to get myself back to being healthy. The deep emotion of love is a powerful emotion, and that can be used to open that gate to reframe belief systems that might be there. So it's a practice where you need to really do it on a daily basis. Like a vineyard, if you want good grapes, you can't just let it be on its own. You got to go in there and weed the garden. So I try 10 minutes every day of this practice of belly breathing alongside mindfulness to get myself, my belief systems back to where they're healthy and strong. And a healthy and strong mind is a healthy and strong body. So, I stand before you today not as a man defined by loss, but someone who has risen back from loss. Things like my children, a few of them here today, my amazing girlfriend, my rebuilding friendships, working on myself has been a powerful tool to regain my health back, my mental health back, my emotional health back, my spiritual health back. I urge each of you to embark on this journey. You know, face your vulnerabilities. Use gratitude and positive affirmations with belly breathing as a way to bring yourself out of a dark hole. If you find yourself in a dark place, know that you're not alone. We're all going through it, and healing takes time. The journey is worth embarking on. Embrace the process and know that there's others out there to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Okay, before, you were so great. And I mean, before we ask you about your questions, I just wanted to say, this is how Dr. Brett got in the book, right? At first he was like, what, do I need to have a vagina to be in this book? and then we were like, you know what? No, you don't. And now it inspired us to, you know, talk to Aaron and say, wait, it doesn't need to just be women showing up vulnerably, sharing their stories,
well, I
right?
think
it's everybody.
Yeah.
And it's so, thank you for changing
that. I do 100% believe, because men have a harder time showing the vulnerability. So we are so grateful for you to come here and share and open those doors for other men to come and join this movement where we heal. Because a lot of men do need a lot more help. Women naturally talk. We have our girlfriends. When shit hits the fan, you have your people. Men have a lot of pride and they hold things in. And then, you know, leads down darker paths than, you know, getting the help. So I do really want to say thank you. And we hope our next book, which is going to be starting in January, we will have more men coming and sharing their stories of strength, resilience, and their journees. So, yeah, thank you. But don't go yet. We have questions.
We're going to ask you questions.
Are they medical? Because
no. Okay, do you want to go first? Or?
Sure. You know, you were talking about the loss in love and, you know, trust back in love. How are you moving past getting into another healthy relationship where you don't have that fear of going down that same path?
I mean, that's a very good question. And truthfully, I'm still working on it. I mean, I subconsciously, back there, that weed, I'm not lovable. So this is actually a big part of the process. And I didn't really again realize it till I was going through it, that I was like, wow, I really am shedding a lot of tears every time I do this. Like, I've been separated for 4 years, you know, and things started a few years before that. It's been a long time. The journey is never ending. So I think a big part of refining the trust is sharing and knowing that you're not alone. Knowing that a lot of people go through these processes. Sometimes I just look and I'm still in shock. How am I not through this? How am I still so sad, So.
Well, thank you. Well, it's because there's no timeline on grief.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. One of the other questions we had for you was, so you do exude love. Like, you obviously have such a great love for your children. That's something I've always admired about you. What are I know you've had love and loss and pain. When it comes to love, though, what are some of the greatest, gifts and lessons you've found in love?
Wow, that's a big question.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, to wake up and have someone to love is my purpose. That's the purpose. It fuels me. That's why I think I was so broken, is because I was building this thing and I just felt all this love. And then all of a sudden, when you're told that someone doesn't love you, it's like ripped away, right? So I think, as I'm regaining myself and my strength, having someone that loves you unconditionally, even in the hard times, is a big part that helps build that back up.
Yeah. And how we're talking a little bit about today in general about people's stories and how you say something to someone and you never know how it's going to impact their life. So you mentioned something today and it reminded me that you've said this before when you talked about your kids going from your house and it breaking your heart. So you came on our podcast when I was in the beginning of my separation, and you came on and you were talking about the hardest thing was that your kids live out of a suitcase sometimes, and I thought about that, and every time my kids left, my heart breaks every time. I felt so much sadness, and I still do. And you said something though that changed my entire way I look at it. Like, I still cry after they've left, and my heart still hurts. And you said to me though, there is a gift in having the week when you can focus. You said, I've never spent so much time focusing on my adult self, digging deep, looking at myself, looking at my shite. And that, honestly, Brett, that has changed my life. Oh. That allows me, when my kids leave, I cry. And then I say, this is your gift, is to go through this week and to focus on you and to be a better you, so that when you get them back and then my heart comes back to me, that I feel complete. And I have you to thank for that. So thank you.
So what you're saying is that I just need a week away from my family.
You know what? One of the most powerful moments that happened for me was when we told our children that we were going to separate, which was the hardest day of my life. I was crying, and my second-born son came up to me and held me and said, "Dad, I'm always going to be your son." And I thought, aren't I supposed to be doing this for you? Like, thank you.
They're just so resilient compared to all of us, right? And we're like, ah! And they just know that we love them all. And
So how did you find community here? Because I know, relationships are important, women to women, men to men. How did you, is there a need for more male communities where they come together and share in a vulnerable way?
You know what? I think I was very fortunate in the way that I had a father who was a counselor and a psychologist. So right off the bat, I think he recognized how hard I was taking it, and he showed up really well to be there for me, so I could talk to him all the time. He knew, how dark sometimes I'd go, and but a lot of us don't have that. So we do. We need groups of men to come together to be able to share, and I'm lucky that I do have a circle of friends and a support group, thanks Lee, where I can share, where it's a safe place to share. And like this too, like this is being vulnerable. I mean, couple of my kids are here. I don't know if they've ever heard this. So, it's hard. But the most important thing is sometimes not to get advice, but just to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Like letting it out. This whole process I was very resentful and angry. And now I'm actually going through this process. A lot of that anger is gone, and I'm finding myself again. Yeah.
Well,
so
thank
powerful.
you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's nice.
Oh, she needs
one of those are you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Chantel.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how this happened. Sorry.
Here, you do
Yeah,
this
no,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You're up.
Okay. So next we have Chantal Doucette coming on stage. As a realtor with a deep passion for waterfront properties, she brings extensive knowledge and personal experience to every transaction. Having owned and sold her own properties on the water, she understands the unique appeal of intricacies of these homes. Yes, I know we looked at homes in the water, and man, I do not want no septic systems. Beyond her professional life, she's a dedicated parent, raising 3 children, 2 of whom are still at home, and a proud grandparent. Despite facing personal tragedy with the loss of her late husband, she has found peace and a deep appreciation for life. She's committed to being of service to others and helping them find their own slice of happiness. Welcome, Chantal.
This is way more scarier than I thought. So I learned a new word recently. It's called madrisis, and it is a symptom and a reaction that causes the eyes to turn completely black. I witnessed this when I had to tell my children that their father would never return home. After only just receiving the news myself and reading a letter from my husband, putting the blame on me for taking his own life. I'm sorry, this is hard. Before I begin, I really would like you guys to partake in an exercise that allowed me to leave my room, leave my home. It's something that I had to do because I did not love myself. I did not like myself. I didn't look in a mirror. I didn't go to a gym. I didn't do anything that made me feel good or happy because I believed I didn't deserve it. So I would like if all of you guys could stand up and take your arms around you. Close your eyes and bow your chin down to your heart. Can you think of somebody who is no longer here with us? A memory of them. Maybe you can see the sun in their eyes. Maybe you can hear them laughing. This moment is so pure. It's a moment that you looked at them and you thought, oh, I love you. And say, I love you out loud. Now feel your heart beat and just hold yourself. You can open your eyes and let go and sit down now. I would lock myself in the bathroom. I would lock myself in the closet. I would hide from my children because they were grieving, and I had to be their pillar. In 3 short years, I lost everybody that was my pillar. I lost all my foundations. I didn't have a mom to call when I didn't have a dad to call. I didn't have an aunt. And my children often would say, why don't we have a family dinner? You know, we went into the pandemic. I feel like the pandemic saved my little family. I did not have to work. So the pandemic, even though we didn't have anything, we were forced to grieve with one another, and we went through all of the moments. I feel that now embracing the power of vulnerability and cherishing these memories is truly what has given birth to my resilience. I know now what I would have told my past self that night I sat in a tub fully clothed after 6 hours and 2 bottles of wine, staring into a hazy candle-lit bathroom, staring at what was hard to believe. My husband, who stood 6'4", was now in a 12-inch tall handmade urn. The pain that refused to leave my body, the stabbing feeling in my stomach, the shaking in my hands and my legs, and the static in my brain. This part of my journey was guilt, and I was completely consumed with it. I felt like a murderer. And in the bathtub, all I could hear was his last words. "My blood is on your hands," as he threw my hand down in front of the kids at school and walked away. I never thought that that would be the last moment I would see him. And in that moment in the tub, the weight of all of my past experiences and the constant losses that life kept blessing me with felt insurmountable. And for the first time in my entire life, I just had no idea how I had endured all of this and was really actually not insane. I was actually quite coherent after 2 bottles of wine. My journey began with my abandonment from my mother, who was a baby herself, wrapping me in a blanket and leaving me on a doorstep. An abusive relationship and tumultuous upbringing, which planted seeds of feeling unwanted and alone. A profound sense of not belonging always haunted me, but I carried on, fighting against all the adversities that threatened to consume me. Becoming a teen mom, raising my own son, meeting my husband, who in the time that we were together provided such a beautiful life for us, that I myself had grew, and I'd healed many of my past inner child. This is the pivotal moment when I found myself for the first time in 42 years actually thinking of giving up on life. I have never been one to understand depression or anxiety, but for the first time, I did. I felt the weight of the world crushing my hope. Hope was not in my home anymore. My spirit felt withered and gray. I felt grappled with the blame placed on me, and the letter that he wrote, and the things that he said. I know that night, I left the woman I was in the tub. I know that she no longer was alive. I knew that who my children could have been was no more. I had grieved all of us, because not only did he take his own life, he took all of our lives. And yet, despite the darkness that enveloped me, I had endured. I had found solace in the love of my children. The bond of my daughter had been strengthened. The trials we faced together, even in the face of my daughter's own struggle with mental health. This is the part where I will say I finally stopped. When she walked into my room and told me that she had taken 2 bottles of Advil, this was something I knew I could not do. I could not handle this. And this is when I knew I had to face the traumas that were gripping us from our past. Become the woman that was stirring within me and that I was working towards. The accountability I was holding on to for my husband's suicide, and letting go of the blame, and letting go of the grief. Now the anniversary, 5 years, is upon us, October 5th. 3 years ago, after that fateful night in the tub, I would say to my past self, life looks different. The road ahead remains challenging, filled with moments of grief, guilt, and hardship. But I found the courage to carry the burdens with dignity and grace. One thing I have truly learned is vulnerability is not weakness, but the purest form of strength through it all. I have discovered that after great loss comes great love. For a deeper understanding of others and how being alive in the moments of life, I am so aware of the little things and being a light for others, and most importantly, the love for myself. The relationship I have with my children, my daughter, this was all the things that my inner child had yearned for. All the things I did not have as a child, I now had the opportunity to give them to my children. I had broke lineage ties and trauma from my own past, even though we were faced with now another. I hope that my story serves as a testament to the human spirit, the power of resilience, and the capacity for profound healing that we are all capable of, and a reminder that even in the darkest times, even when we don't feel hope, it is actually still there, and that tomorrow indeed can be brighter. We all hold an internal ability to choose and love within the dark. My true success now is my family and my children, and that I finally found a home that I did not have as a child. I found the home in my children. As we navigate through our journeys, let us draw strength from the resilience inside us that we all carry and find solace in the knowledge that amidst the trials and tribulations, love and healing awaits us. So embrace our vulnerabilities and seek and help others, and remember that after great loss comes great love. Choosing love will always bring the light back, and the light in my heart honors and loves the light in yours.
Somebody brought up Kleenex for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, we want to acknowledge, thank you for your bravery and sharing this story. And I know when we first even started this, you said this is really hard for me to do, and it took a lot of, obviously you are a strong person, and it took a lot of strength, and I know we're both so proud of you, and thank you for sharing. And
Yes, we're
so vulnerable.
So honored to have had you on this journey. We know what you had to go through and the mountains you had to move to get even here. So I just want to acknowledge you for standing here and sharing your story today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So we have a couple questions. How did writing about your grief help you process your emotions, and what can others learn from the act of writing as therapy?
I would say that it was very, very hard. I did not actually realize how much I'd actually gone through until I started to write it. I kind of thought, wow, it's like, I will say that I had moments that I was like, I'm a strong bitch. I had a lot of support from my kids. When I was writing it, I really did, I really did find that, I was so grateful for just my kids and my daughter really realizing that, my life had done this full circle. Like I was given up when I was a baby, and then just constantly being, tossed around as a child, never really having a home, always wanting a home. And, I guess it's like that manifestation. You end up manifesting your whole life. And, after he passed away and after my mom died, I failed my real estate license and my dog died. And, it was just like all these things kept happening. And I thought it was literally, I relived my childhood, and through that process, my kids were living that. And what I realized was that I actually was the person I needed when I was a kid. So that was, I think, the real thing that came from this process was that, wow, I actually saw that, I was the mom that I wanted when I was a little girl. I had the relationship with my daughter that I wanted when I was young, and, just really got to be that person. I think that was a big change, and it really did give me a lot of strength. Even now, I feel, it's talking about it is so hard, and reading this story is so hard. But I think that the things that have blossomed from it are incredible. The ability to heal yourself, the ability to go internal, and really come out from isolation, if you will. I think I was so isolated. And then I met you guys, and I was like, oh, there's life out there. So, it was it's still fairly new, right? So, it's only been 5 years, and in the last year and a half, I've only just been coming out. So it's you know, I mean, I wore sweatpants for a long time.
It's funny when we start like working on one thing, it keeps taking you back and unraveling all the things that are hidden underneath that we don't even know have had impact on our lives from earlier on, like your childhood. You know, we as women sometimes are like, yeah, strong, independent women, and then there is, you know, the breakdown, because it's like, why are things happening to me? And you're constantly in this circle. It's like, why is life happening to me? Well, it's not. It's probably happening because not to you, but for you. There's lessons to be learned, and if we're curious enough to look, you know, there's growth and shedding, and releasing some of that.
And I think the more darkness that you're in, I mean, the brighter the light is.
Right.
Right? It's like you're just meant to do something great, clearly.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And then, I mean, when you were talking about your childhood, when we sat down, when you were writing your story, I mean, you have been through so much, and I'm so glad that this process helped you see that, and that, you know, you're here sharing, and
I'll get better at sharing as we go on.
You were perfect at sharing. What do you mean better?
What was your turning point in your grief? You know, because you said that you didn't get out of your sweatpants for a while, and you were hiding in the closet, and like, where was your, like, what turning
every time
point?
I came out, that was the thing, is that, so every time I would step out of my comfort zone, something bad would happen. So, you know, I tried to take my kids on a trip after, you know, everything, failing my exam, my mom's funeral, and then tragically my dog died on the trip. She ate a jalapeno pepper, and that was it. So she, you know, she was my best friend through all of that, right? So it was kind of like, when I came back, I think, you know, everything digressed. Everything just fell apart. Ryla, my daughter, tried to commit suicide. I think being in the hospital then, it was sort of like, I realized that I had to talk about things. I think that's kind of really where it was like, okay, you know what, I gotta stop. Like, I felt like, I guess, I had a wall up. Like, every time I would meet people, I would almost act like I was just this normal person. That's normal anyways. But I mean, I was just this normal person. I would not talk about the fact that my husband died. I wouldn't talk about any of these things because I didn't want to be that sad girl. I just wanted to break away from that. And then, you know, when she was in the hospital, and it was like, she was like, well, this is who I am. And it was like, okay, fine. You know, and that it really stuck with me. I was like, okay, this is, you know what? She's right. And I started talking about it. And I remember I went to the collab event at Amy's, and I met Carrie in, and she was the very first person that I opened up to, and I told my story to. And it felt so good. I was like, oh my God. And it was just this build up. And I think after that, it just kind of started going from there. So, I mean, that's, again, like I said, it is so new for me, like, to say it and get it and hear it out there. But so I'd say that's probably, does that answer your question?
Yeah, and I mean, it does answer the question, and it does really show that it is kind of human nature to hold these stories in. Once you share it once, maybe to one person, then I think after you shared it with Kareen that day, not long later, we heard it at some event, and then you just share, and then did you feel like you're saying just that?
Well, you draw the right people. Right. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, I started meeting all these other people and making all these relationships, and my life went from being this really, really, really quiet, like, where I didn't want to talk to people. I mean, there were so many times where people would call me and ask me to do something. I'm like, oh, I'm really busy. I'm actually just on my couch. I'm actually not doing anything. So, I mean, like, it was nice to break from that and, like, actually have real connections with people, as opposed to before I felt like it was always very difficult, you know, like, because when you're not telling your story, then you're like I said, like when I was in the room, you know, I would literally feel like I could like, I just didn't love myself. You know, I literally felt like I was a murderer. Like, I just thought like, oh my God, am I a horrible person? He took his life. And he, in that moment, felt that it was really my fault. You know, I think that there is I can't even imagine what he felt, like how he felt. And, you know, his sister is like, why aren't you angry? You know, I mean, because I actually never got angry. I never felt anger. I feel anger, but not like at him. I felt more anger because of the situation, the circumstances happening to, you know, now be this like, okay, what the hell am I going to do? Like, there's no life insurance. There's no, like, everything was stuck in our corporation. I had to go to work. I had to like figure it out and fast. So it wasn't like I didn't have that time to like just stop. And that's kind of why I say the pandemic saved us, you know? But it's like, I think just the understanding, and a lot of people have talked about it, you know, they get to a point where they give up, and what are those reasons? What are the reasons that you're giving up? Like, it's not about me. It's not about anybody else, really. The like what I say about accountability is, I wish I just would have showed up more. You know, I wish I would have understood more. But then I got to do that with my daughter.
Right.
So, you know, I guess, and I think that, would she have done that if he hadn't committed suicide? Because she's still very high. Like, you know, that's kind of one of the things that I'm diving into more now, is to help kids that go through trauma, but also, you know, she's got some of the bipolarness that he had. So it was very undiagnosed. And so would that have been something that maybe eventually, as she got older, she still would have done, even if that hadn't happened? You know, so like, did that save her in a way? You know, I guess that's me trying to find the positive. And
yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I mean, wow. Yeah, always so many
layers.
Questions and layers. And I think our last question was around grief. And that's the thing about grief, right? There's so many questions. There's so many layers.
Yeah.
And what would your advice be to somebody just newly going through grief?
You know, everybody grieves very differently, I think. I know for myself, it's kind of like a ripple effect. Everything changed. Everything changes really fast. You know, I don't even really remember a lot of like that little bit of time, but I think it's okay. It's okay that life is fucked up.
Right, and it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, right? It's okay to just be there, and you just, you know, and reach out.
Yeah.
Reach out, you know. I mean, the people who do stay, I think it's important to allow them to stay. You know, I think that, you know, I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, for me, I think when I lost my mom, it was so different from a spouse. And then to go through the suicide of somebody, it's, you know, I think you go through just such a dark, dark time that it's like you have to let yourself sit in there. You have to sit in there. You have to feel it, and you have to go through it. And it's going to take time, and just let it take the time. Don't force to feel better. You know, I think that is the one thing. I mean, I don't know that I necessarily forced anything. I just stood up in what knew I had to do. And that was in regard to my children. But ultimately, I think that you just have to, I mean, I laid in a suitcase for 4 hours. You know, I mean, you just got to let it happen.
Yeah.
Let it happen.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being vulnerable and sharing today with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you very much. So next up, we're excited to bring Erica up on the stage. So, Erica first pursued excellence in sport, winning 2 gold medals in the Ontario Provincial Ringette. She played varsity field hockey AAA ice hockey for BC, and she competed for Team Canada at the ITU World Triathlon Grand Final in London, England. Along with her athletic career, Erica advocates for education. She completed a BA with honors in modern languages and literature, an MBA in leadership and management, and after years in the industry, she teaches at universities and technical colleges across North America. She's had several leadership and consulting roles and is a natural adventurer. She's an avid traveler. She's fluent in English, Spanish, and French, and she's a dedicated mother of 2 bright and inspiring boys who are already developing into athletes and adventurers themselves. So welcome Erica to the stage.
Hi, everybody. Those of you that did this without the safety net here, I commend you. At some point in my life, can you hear me okay? At some point in my life, I would like to get to that stage, so that's something to aspire to. So thank you all for being a part of this journey with me today and all of us today. But before I begin, I'd like to start by saying and set the story straight that I am not a victim. So I just want to set that straight from the start. Your stories are just as vital and as impactful as mine. And my story may resonate with you at some level today. It may inspire you at some level today. But more importantly, what I hope it does is that it supports you in, under, through, around, across, over some kind of roadblock that at some point in your life, present, past, or future, the light faded or direction became fuzzy. Has that ever happened? My biggest hope for today is that we can cross a symbolic finish line together. I will share my journey, my experience, and a framework that I built with the incredible woman, Chantel Adams, who I think maybe I saw in the back there. Amazing woman. So we built that together that you can use any time that the waters get rough. As you already heard, my name is Erica Bears. I'm an author, an athlete. I lecture at universities across North America, and I'm a very proud mama there. Now, this is going to seem a little unconventional for a presentation of this kind, but there's been a lot of unconventional things happening in this room. So what I want us to do together is I want to ask you if you would be willing to come with me on a race with your minds and in your brains, a race that will bring us through reset, realize, reframe, and recommit. I'm going to stick this little finish line here down on the ground. Don't tell my kids I'm using my teeth, please, if you don't mind. And then I'll put it here, but this is our symbolic finish line. Okay, hopefully that sticks. Is it sticking? Yes. All right, who's with me? Are you willing to come along with me on this journey? Give me a thumbs up if you're in. All right, sweet. Okay, so let's warm up. So I was told that this thing makes sound with my hair, so I'm going to warm up by putting my hair up. Anyone else can do whatever they need to do. Stretch your neck, take a breath, maybe do some of the deep breathing that Dr. Brett taught us. So we're going to warm up, and I'm going to explain the scenario. So we're going to go on a race in our minds that reflects our ability to reset, realize, reframe, and recommit. A journey that demonstrates our ability to transform our greatest challenges into our most profound victories. Let's begin with the first step towards the starting line. That first step is reset. Have you ever had Netflix or your cell phone ask you to restart? Or if you ever been contacted and somebody told you to just unplug the electronic device, let it sit for a little while, and then plug it back in, and then poof, it magically worked? That ever happened to anyone in this room? So humans created electronic devices. And there's a fundamental reason why these electronic devices have reset buttons. And we need them too. So, without further ado, we are now at the starting line of our, let's say this is the starting line, okay? We'll make that the starting line. So we're now at the starting line of our race. Before we start, I want you to think about how much memory and sources are connected through our smartphones and our computers and our smart televisions. Okay, now I want you to think about your brain. And I want you to think about how much memory, how much sources, how many people, how many experiences are impacting your brain every day, every hour, every minute, every second. Can you see that? Now I want you to go to a place where things are feeling a little bit chaotic. And you're juggling multiple responsibilities. Then you find yourself a little bit overwhelmed. Ever been there? Can you find a spot for me? Perhaps you've had an unexpected circumstance that has thrown you off course. I know that feeling all too well. Here it comes. So picture this. This is my story. Being told for the first time on stage, by the way. I was in a taxi cab in Thailand, exhilarated after completing my very first Ironman. I was over the moon, and I was texting my friends and family that I was on my way home to celebrate. In an instant, everything changed. The driver of that little red taxi fell asleep at the wheel. Excuse me. And I found myself flying through the windshield of that car as he crashed into the concrete wall of a school. And I was left unconscious. That moment forced me to reset, not just my day, but my entire life. Now, I invite you to take your first step with me in whatever's going on in your mind. And I want you to think about a reset in your own life. Maybe it's a setback at work. Maybe it's a personal loss or a heartbreak. Or maybe it's a health scare or grief. And I want you to take a moment to think about how it felt to hit that reset button. I'm just going to pause here for a moment for us to think for a sec. Okay, now that we've taken a moment to reset, let's move to the second step. Realize. We've heard a lot of that today. In the aftermath of my accident, I woke up in the hospital bed in Thailand 10 days later with all my ribs broken, a crushed thorax, cuts from the glass on my head, and the words from the doctor telling me that I had a severe brain injury. I lay in that bed, unable to speak. I felt lost and broken on so many levels. How would I ever be the same again? How can I live like this? How can I be a burden on the people that I love in my life? Will I ever compete again? During that time, when I could finally speak again, I started to ask questions. And I did what the doctors, the nurses, the neurologists told me. And I started to learn a critical lesson. Our mind plays tricks on us. And the journey to recovery is not linear. It's a series of ups and downs. But we have the power to change our own minds. If we treat our brain like a muscle, okay? So bear with me now. I know it's an organ. I know it's an organ, so just bear with me as I go through this process. If we treat our brain like a muscle that needs to be rebuilt, retrained, and needs time to recover, we can do the unthinkable. Just like when we twist our ankle or we break a limb, we give it time to heal. We go to physio. We rest. Through this phase in the journey that I realized that my brain specifically had the power to get back on the bike, back in the water, and back on the track. Okay. Sorry. I think I might have the wrong page here. Let's take the second step together. Please take a moment to think about a realization, and some of you have already done so today, that you've had in your life. What truths and triumphs have you emerged from your challenges? Remember these and maybe write them down somewhere later, or you can write them down now. Now we come to the most pivotal step of the process, reframe. When I began my recovery, I had to shift my perspective. I lost a lot of memories, and I went to some really dark places. but I remembered that I had won an opportunity in my age group to compete for Team Canada at the ITU World Triathlon Finale in London. I thought that dream was no longer possible. And instead, it became a way for me to reclaim my life. I began to reframe my thinking. I took that dark frame that had me never competing again, and I started to put glitter on it and sparkles on it. Now, the new version of my dream, I needed to make it realistic. I mean, as an educator, we know what SMART goals are, so I needed to make this realistic. And not about being the fastest or the best or the greatest at this point in time. This new frame was going to be about being the best version of myself in that moment. And it was me crossing the finish line, even if I was going to be in last place. Now, it's important to note that reframing is not settling. It's just seeing the world and things and seeing new possibilities, new opportunities. So what I did is I wrote motivational quotes all over my mirrors. I got a whiteboard, I stuck it at the front door, and I started writing new goals on that whiteboard. I hired the most amazing coach, Ken Hamilton, to retrain me back to my abilities. And he started at 10 minutes a day. Then we moved to 15, 20, 25, 30, and so on. I painted a new picture for my future. Okay, let's take the third step together. Can you think about how you can reframe your challenges? What new possibilities can you create from your obstacles? Take a moment there with that while I breathe. Okay, finally, we come to the last step, recommit. After months of hard work, I found myself back at the starting line, ready to race. It didn't matter where I finished. What mattered was that I dared to dream again. It was raining that day, and I did pretty good on the swim, and then I got on the first loop of the bike route, and I slipped, and I fell into the crowd. And the crowd goes, "Ooh!" And you better believe I got back up on that bike, and I started to pedal as fast as I could. And the crowd started to cheer. "Go Bears! Go Erica!" I had goosebumps the size of golf balls on my body. And I had a Red Bull of energy that I just kept pushing as fast as I could. Almost there. Breathe it, breathing through, right? Or does it, this one? Okay. I crossed that finish line with a waterfall of tears streaming down my face, overwhelmed with joy now. I had fought for my dreams, and the victory was more than I could have ever imagined. It was an epiphany on how amazing we are as human beings. What we're capable of is truly remarkable. I and all of the authors in this book are living proof. Thank you for sharing your stories. Now I ask you to think about your dreams. What do you want to recommit to? What finish line are you willing to pursue no matter what the obstacles? As we near the end of this journey together, or this race together, let's say, I want us to take a moment to collectively envision ourselves crossing this finish line here at the front of the room. Picture it with me. The joy, the relief, the fulfillment, and the achievement of doing something that you once thought was impossible. I invite you to either stand up or stay seated, whatever you feel more comfortable with, and join me in this symbolic act. Okay. Please close your eyes and imagine that we're at the finish line, hand in hand, ready to take on and cross this finish line together. As we cross the finish line, I want you to remember this. Every reset is an opportunity. Every realization is a stepping stone. Every reframe is a new perspective, and every recommitment is a promise to yourself. You're capable of more than you can possibly know. Together, let's take on life's journeys and challenges and transform them into triumphs, and to continue to pursue our dreams. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey today with me. Let's celebrate this finish line. And remember that we're all in this together, and we have the power to rewrite our stories one step at a time. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope we didn't wear you out of the frame there. Thank you.
Did I go out? Sorry.
No, it was great. That was so fun.
I'm shaking.
Like all the props. Thank you for sharing your story.
My pleasure.
I know that at the beginning you said that, one thing you said to me at the beginning was that you were worried that this story and in sharing this really personal thing about you would make you somehow look
Stupid.
Yeah, I don't know if stupid was the word, but you said something about like less than. You're like, I'm an educated person.
Yeah.
I have all these accolades. I'm smart. I'm a professor. And I don't want people to see this part of me that you were maybe framing at the time as like a weakness, right?
For sure.
And I just think standing up here and the way you say you went through your process and you reframe things and you move forward, I mean, it is not a weakness. It is such a strength within you. So
Well, and that's
I'm
what
so
you
glad
should.
you came to that and you were able to share it. And I'm really proud of you.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah.
Yeah, it was very powerful. I loved how you moved through your emotions here and you took the time to really own it.
That was
and
the breathing exercise
yes.
that you taught me. I'm like, okay, I got this.
because there is power in a pause, right?
Yeah, for
so
sure.
yeah, I think you're just the cutest.
Oh,
you
I
were
know,
just
right?
like
She just has such like a pizzazz
It's
to
funny
her.
because I have here pause for moments on my notes to give myself the reminder. That's funny.
yeah, no, what a way to like overcome adversity. You know, we like all of our stories we heard today, people were saying, oh, I'm not sure if I can, and there's others that are saying you can't or you won't. And then when you put the power in your, like when you put it in your head, like
Yeah.
you said, you had a brain injury, but you still like, no, I don't care.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell me what to do. I am in control of my life. I am in control of how I move through things, and giving yourself that power back,
Yeah.
taking the power back and not giving someone else. And look where you are today.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I really commend you.
And then
Yeah.
you also just have such a logical brain. I don't remember that book, but where she wakes up and she has a stroke. And she goes through knowing, because she was like a stroke doctor,
Okay.
what had happened to her. And she says, this is how I'm going to rebuild my life. And she's just so logical. And that's what makes me, in your story, what makes me think of her
Oh,
is
wow.
just you're like, here I am. Okay, this happened to me. So I need to hire a coach. I need to take
Yeah.
it day by day. Just your logic. And it was amazing.
Yeah, I think it goes back to Aaron's talk too, where you grow up playing sports and there's like steps to it, and if you have a family that sort of pushes you to keep going. And it was interesting when he said that sometimes men are more vulnerable. When we were little, it was unless we were broken and like bruised and battered on the ground, it was like, get up, let's go, we got to go. I had a mom who was Australian, super tough, and then my dad was a sports person. So I think that also helps with that ability to sort of say, okay, well, I got to get up and do something about this. I can't just sit here. I have to fix it. How do I fix it? And that's just like, I think that helped me to sort of go through that process. But I mean, when I did actually go through and went unconscious, the first little bit, I couldn't speak, I couldn't write, I couldn't do an email, and I lost so many memories. But you learn little tactics to work and get the information that is in there back to where it should be. So it just takes a lot of work and effort, and you just do it.
And you just do it.
One step at a time.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's
And time.
instant.
Yeah.
Time. But like I said, like a muscle. So if you did break your arm, you're not just going to walk around starting to play baseball again, right? You're going to put the cast on. You're going to wear the cast for the
Unless you're my mother.
You're going to get people to sign it and tell them how much they love you, and you're going to build there's so many things you're going to do just for that. So the best advice I could ever give anyone is just to treat your brain like a muscle. It sounds weird, but if you can associate the sports mind with that, even one of the speeches, Think Brett's, mind and body are connected. So If I look at it that way, then I can start to fix it. It's just a way of like reframing how I'm going to fix something.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Oh,
What was the
100%.
most difficult part of your journey to reset your life? Like, what was the most difficult part?
Well, reset, I didn't have a choice with. That was like just the car crash. It was like, you got to slow down. We're going to give you a brain injury or whatever happened. So you mean like the realization or the reframing?
Yeah, like your journey. Like what, was
The
what
hardest
was the
part?
of your journey?
The hardest part?
Yes.
Okay, so the hardest part would have been when I got back home. So I was in the hospital for a really long time and then medevaced back to Canada. I was alone in the hospital. Nobody else was there. And I didn't wake up for like 10 days. So, and on lots of drugs but my family was corralling. My family got the Canadian High Commission to come and help me and put me in a hospital that was an international hospital, because at first they had me in some public hospital and the guy was trying to put a needle in my head apparently, and it was just not a good thing. So they shipped me over to this hospital. But I think it was when I got home, and I don't know if anyone's had a concussion or a brain injury, but you do get sad and you feel pain. And for me, it was the burden on my family. And I did have, like I said in my talk, I had moments where I thought I wanted to end my life because I thought that I would never be able to be what I wanted to be. What about my sports? What about my work? What about, I started to think like that. And I'm burdened on my mom and my dad and my brother and my family and my loved ones. So that was the hardest part. But your family loves you, your friends love you, like they're there to be for you. So the village is actually incredibly important. I know that's talked about a bit. And so that, just those moments. Now, thankfully, they didn't last for a very, very long time, and I was able to get myself out. You know what actually helped, now that I'm thinking about it, was pictures of my nieces. Like I was looking on my phone at things that I could look forward to, like things that would make me happy to think about for the future, and then coming up with new ideas and goals in those moments. So I think that was probably the stepping stone, the realization piece that got me through to the next phase. And then once I had them, it was like, I'm ready, and that was it. So.
Yeah. And then do you find that you put that in all aspects of your life now? Like the reset, the reframe?
I say like 90, maybe 85, 87%. Because there's some things that you don't have control over. Like they're just spontaneous moments in your life. And I kind of sometimes just want it to happen. I just want to see what happens if I do this or do that. So I'm still pretty risky. But when things go wrong, yes, 100%. Like when I'm kind of struggling through something, rather than going down and feeling sad and feeling bad, I hit the real life. Okay, what do I need to do? How can I figure out what's going on? And then what can I do in my mind not to think this anymore? How could I reframe this? And I actually consciously will think about how, like basically we have all these file folders in our brain, and we make the pictures. We're the one who creates them. So we have the power to put a blank canvas on here if we want and start throwing other things on it. So yes, I definitely use the reframe. And then the recommit depends on how pretty the picture is. I'm kidding.
I like that.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No, fair.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Erica. You're a joy.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Thank you. Sorry, I'll get this.
All right. Well, we have 2 minutes here before we break for lunch. We wanted to thank you all for being here and thank our sponsors.
Yeah, for sure. So today we want to recognize Success by Design Financial, a dedicated partner in promoting financial literacy and empowerment. This innovative company is committed to educating families on how money works, helping them save effectively, minimize taxes, and navigate the banking system to their advantages. Don't we need that all, right? Although rates are going down, so woohoo! Through their expert guidance, they empower individuals to take control of their financial futures and make informed decisions that lead to lasting success. Please join me in thanking Success by Design Financial for their invaluable support and commitment to building a financially literate community. So we have Alex, and I'm not sure where Mark went.
But he's here somewhere.
But he's here. They flew in here from Edmonton, and they've been back and forth supporting us, our podcast, as well as Lee and I. So if you guys get a chance to talk to them, they're freaking awesome guys. So thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to also thank the Delta for, oh my gosh, they've been just so phenomenal for the space, the food, the venue, everything.
Their hospitality, their service, they're incredible.
So we want to say a big thank you. I know a bunch of us stayed here over the weekend, and what fun it has been. Also, we want to thank Body Bar and Laser Clinic, Christelle. Is she here? Oh yes, there she is. She has a phenomenal spa. I know a lot of us go there. Her education, she tailors the skincare and all your needs to you. It's not a one fix it all. She's so knowledgeable. She's fierce and feisty. So we thank you for sponsoring the photo booth. So at lunch, we will take our food, which will be served shortly. And then there are speakers' tables with books for signing. So take your lunch, go back there. And there's
take
also
some
the
pictures.
Photo booths out there as well.
And we want to thank Wisdom, Wealth, and Wellbeing, Anita Parker. Thank you so much. Anita is such a community builder, and you'll hear from her this afternoon. We're just so grateful for your support and for you being here. We want to thank Connect TV for live streaming and for your donation. And we want to thank everyone. Let's go to lunch. Let's lunch.
No. I just want to say, let's take a little bit more time.
I'm trying to stay on time because it's like
I want to take some more time to actually.
All right, let's thank Connect TV.
Yes,
for coming here, for live streaming, for believing in us, for believing in our vision.
Yes.
For adapting with us as we went along and things shifted and changed. For stepping up and also doing AV or whatever. I don't know all the technical things, but something that, the audio board and all the things and being here. And for Tyler and Cole and all the team, in addition to Kent, for being here and for believing in us and our dream here.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you. And then the last sponsor is Firebird Prints, that ended up on here because we had a bit of a fire situation, not an actual, but putting out some fires because the sign that was supposed to be here wasn't going to be here till like November. So they came through and on a Monday delivered this thing by a Thursday from Vancouver. So we just want to say thank you for saving our asses here.
Especially Mohammed, the guy who did it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, we're going to break for lunch. Come back here at 1:20 if you can, so we can promptly resume at 1:30. And we will see you then.
Okay,
thank you.